Good morning, Victor Senior High School. My name is Sloane.
And I'm Melania, and this is the Victor Voice.
With class elections, finals, senior events, and sports successes, there's been a lot going on at the school. Here at the Victor Voice, we have done our best to cover important events and conversations at the school. Thank you for watching us this year and being part of those conversations. It takes a lot for us to produce an episode and keep them relevant and appropriate, especially when the topic is pressing and important.
One conversation that came upon all of us rapidly and overtook the school is the issue of the dress code. From our reporting, we understand that some students feel misunderstood, judged, unseen, or singled out. Nearly everyone we spoke with, including teachers, remain confused about what makes an article of clothing or the person wearing it distracting.
As a matter of fact, back in 2016, this exact conversation was our front page story, and many of the same central questions about double standards, equality, and inappropriate dress were discussed then, just as you are discussing them today in classrooms, on buses, in offices, and on social media.
In the last 2 weeks, as you all know, many students, regardless of gender identity and appearance, have been dress coded. This has disrupted classes, derailed learning, and dominated conversations. We are left wondering, why now?
On May 26th, during an announcement on the school safety, Mr. Siesto brought up the dress code and the student body reacted strongly. You have worn crop tops, written words on your bodies, and debuted some blatant dress code violations. Here are some of your own reactions and experiences.
What have you done about the dress code?
Well, yesterday I wore a very revealing outfit to school to show how the dress code unequally affects the students of this school.
Did you get dress coded with the outfit that you wore?
No.
I think that it's kind of dumb. I mean, sir, I feel like I understand it to an extent, but if it's unfair, then there's no point in having one.
I think I understand it, but also there's some parts that I don't understand and shouldn't be in place.
So I got a warning yesterday because of the dress code. I think at some points it's valid because I feel like a lot of exposed skin might not be correct for the social setting of a school, but I feel like there's bigger things we should be focusing on, especially since it's 90 degrees outside, and I don't see it as a distraction like some people may say, and I think it's more of a personal choice.
A lot of us came in yesterday with crop tops on to try and protest it, and I got dress coded before I even got to second period.
I got dress coded 3 times, and I was told that if I can't put a hoodie on, then I have to put paper towel on myself.
I wore the same thing as her, but I didn't get dress coded, so I don't know. I walked past multiple administrators, though.
What are your thoughts and experiences with the dress code?
I feel like it's a little sexist, to be honest. I've never gotten dress coded, and yeah, I haven't.
This morning, I was walking in the hall, and I stopped in one of the classrooms to talk to my friends, and a teacher said that my shirt showed off my arms and too much of my torso. And she said that I had to go down to the nurse's office to change a shirt, and I didn't, and she never said my name, so I just walked away.
Mr. Morrow came up to me and told me to go to the nurses. I chose to ignore that.
Everyone's kind of overreacting because people are drawing this is a distraction, stuff and marker all over their face and their legs and stuff like that, and I think it's kind of stupid because just wear normal clothes. It's really not that hard.
So I noticed you have some writing all over your body about the dress code. What are your thoughts on it?
I honestly think it's really sexist because guys can walk around wearing tank tops and stuff like that, but girls can't wear crop tops and feel comfortable with what they're wearing.
Did you get dress coded today, or has anybody said anything about what you're wearing?
No, nobody said anything yet. I'm waiting, honestly.
We also contacted administration about their perspective, and were lucky enough to sit down with Mr. Siesto. Here's that interview. Okay. Hello, this is Melania here at the Victor Voice, and today we're interviewing Mr. Siesto about the dress code. Mr. Siesto, the most common citation for a dress code violation is that the clothing item is distracting. Would you mind explaining what distracting for an item of clothing means?
I think it's anything that can prevent concentration, divert attention, or be disturbing. I think that's just kind of the general rule.
Okay. And do you think dress code violations are a question of distraction or kind of more professionalism?
No, I think to be honest with you, the way we look at it as school is probably more under that distracting category for a variety of reasons. So I would not so much professionalism, I don't think.
Okay. Would you mind elaborating on that?
So I think during the year, there's a couple of times during the year where we'll try to make sure that we're following the dress code. I know that the way that it's worded in the code of conduct might be a little bit dated. So what we're doing is we're working with groups of students now who have kind of voiced some concerns about it or their interpretation of it. And sometimes you have a little bit of a divide between staff administration and interpretation of something and what students are living through.
Okay. And students do also feel that there's been like a sudden shift in the enforcement of the dress code. Would you mind explaining that?
So to be completely honest with you, every single year during the springtime, we kind of make this announcement about just tightening things up in the building, especially as we approach like May, June months, because we have a lot of testing going on, whether it's AP exams or final exams. So we made an announcement a couple weeks ago, not just about dress code, it was about hallways, food delivery, open campus, use of the library. Dress code was another piece of it, but I think the dress code, for whatever reason, kind of got some attention. But every year that I've been here, this is something that we kind of do as a reminder every spring.
So the dress code, was it more of a specific decision to enforce it more strictly, as it has been rarely enforced throughout the school year?
Well, I would say that I wouldn't say that it's been rarely enforced. I think in the springtime, it takes on a little bit of a different form than it does in the fall and the winter. I can assure you that when someone calls us with a concern about the dress code, we will address it no matter who it is or during whatever time of year it is.
Why are some aspects of the dress code more enforced than others?
So give me an example if you could.
So, for example, many students do wear hats to school and t-shirts with like profanity or references to alcohol and drugs. And the dress code does specifically forbid that. Yeah.
So the hat rule, actually, we went away from that a number of years ago because we realized that a head covering in general, it just didn't apply to the times anymore. So I think, for example, yesterday there was a student who had a t-shirt on that had a beer company on it, and we had to address that student. So when we see things or hear about them, we're going to address them regardless of when it is.
The Code of Conduct states that it's the responsibility of administration to inform students about the dress code at the beginning of the year. Do you feel that the students were adequately informed?
So we did a dress code, we did a Code of Conduct review at the beginning of the year where we talked about a number of different things in that Code of Conduct. We did it through the classrooms. We had teachers push that information out. I went back and I looked on the slides, and we did not specifically address dress code. I'll freely admit that. We had links in the slides to where you can find the Code of Conduct.
Okay, so students mentioned that they did have a hard time finding the Code of Conduct as it used to be in student agendas, but now that we don't have this anymore, do you think it should be made more readily accessible?
I do, yeah, and that's something that we're going to do in the fall. Showing it on a PowerPoint or telling people where you can go and access it is one thing, but that's not always the most convenient way. Just for everyone's safety, it's good that everyone has an available avenue to get to that Code of Conduct in an easy way. So that's something that we're going to work on for the fall.
So in the student dress code, it states that the students and parents have the right to determine how the student shall dress, providing that such attire is not destructive to school property, complies with requirements for health and safety, and a standard of decency within the community. Mm-hmm. Would you mind elaborating on the standard of decency?
That phrase about, what was it, decency?
Standard of decency.
Standards of decency, that's probably purposefully nebulous and not defined because we know that things are going to change over time. But it's an example also of where it can kind of cause a little bit of strife because what student perspective is in terms of what's decent might not match with what the adult perspective is, and it's our duty as adults to sit with students to try to figure out, okay, what's your perspective, here's what ours is, and is there something that we can do to come to a happy medium, or do we actually have to update the wording of the code of conduct, which is another real possibility that we might have to do.
What are your thoughts on the student response to the policy?
You know what? I've really enjoyed, to be honest with you, I like the idea that students are vocal. I like the idea that they're not afraid to let us know that they're upset about something. What we always try to, at least the administrators, we want to make sure students know that they can feel comfortable coming to us and advocating for something. We don't want it to be contentious. We'll sit down with any student at any time if there's a problem or an issue, if they think something isn't being addressed.
So, yeah, like you just mentioned, in your recent announcement last week, you invited students to meet with administrators. Mm-hmm. How will these meetings inform dress code policy moving forward?
So because we don't have a set agenda for the meetings yet, we're going to kind of walk in and probably just start with like a ground zero conversation. Usually for a meeting, we try to have a set agenda with topics and time limits for each one. We didn't want to do that. What we don't want is people coming into a room thinking a decision has already been made or there's already a certain path that we're forcing people to move forward in. This is truly a conversation. We want to hear some thoughts, some concerns, give everyone a chance to give their perspective, and then decide what's the appropriate way to move forward.
We have one more episode for you coming Tuesday, sending off our seniors. We promise it's more lighthearted than this one. Thank you again for a great year. Also, Mr. Coughlin would like for us to say that if you borrowed his books, he would love for you to return them, whether you've read them or not. I'm Sloane Carr.
And I'm Melania, signing off.